So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to yet another edition of the Pure Digital Passion podcast. And today we're diving deep into the Worldcoin saga, which, as we know in Kenya, has been a really hot button issue for the last month or so. And this really digital currency project has seen an explosive launch in Kenya. Over 350,000 Kenyans came on board. And again, following that, we had the suspension by the Kenyan government due concerns around its operations, privacy concerns, and so forth. And in this particular podcast, we're really trying to provide listeners with an objective understanding, sifting through the myriad of opinions, reports, and sentiments, and getting to the heart of the matter. And I'm really truly delighted to join Alex Blania, the CEO and co-founder of Tools of Humanity, and also the pivotal figure behind Worldcoin. He has a rich background in physics and computer science, having led significant technological advances such as the development of the Worldcoin Orb, which is very much at the center of the controversy in Kenya. And we think that he's going to bring an inside perspective to our conversation, especially with the sort of things that are happening in Kenya right now, where we also know there's an ad hoc committee in parliament that's trying to understand the issues facing Worldcoin and the concerns. So, Alex, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, Alex, let's take it from the top. Let's look at it from the basics. Can you briefly walk us through how Tools of Humanity came about in Worldcoin and what led to these initiatives to begin with?
Of course. So first of all, to get a clear understanding of what is what here. So Tools for Humanity is so Sam Altman, the founder and CEO of OpenAI, which is one of the most important players in AI these days, and me and Max Novenstern. So we started this company almost 3.5 years ago. It's called Tools for Humanity. And the major thing we did is we kicked off the development of Worldcoin. And why there's two different names, why there's Tools for Humanity and Worldcoin, is that Worldcoin is designed to become and be a fully open protocol. So this means that everything that we do, most of it is already open source, and eventually everything will be open source. So this means that as a developer anywhere of the world, you can see the code and all the development that is happening. And so Tools for Humanity is essentially a contributor to Worldcoin, while Worldcoin is an open protocol that many other people can decide to contribute to. And of course, we started it, we founded it, and right now we are in a very pivotal and critical position for Worldcoin because we are the founders. But over the years, that influence will become less and less. So that's why I'm here, and that's why we talk. And to kick off, like, why did we even start working on Worldcoin, and why do we think it matters? There's a couple things to it. So one is, given Sam's AI background, a big motivation was even 3 years ago already the development of AI and what it is going to do to technology and to society more broadly. So many of the listeners probably have played with ChatGPT or other tools. So that has already made a lot of progress in the recent years. And now the technology, I think, within this year has reached a kind of a pivotal moment where it became so useful and so powerful that people actually understand what AI really is, and it became the center of public discourse. But of course, this progress will not stop. It will continue over the coming years. So this means that these systems will become more and more intelligent, and eventually it will be really, really hard to judge if online you're talking to, for example, a human or a neural network. That's going to be one part of it. Of course, it also will solve many important problems. It will make all of us more productive. It will solve many scientific problems, hopefully, and therefore kind of accelerate actually human progress. So it's a very powerful technology. It's very, very exciting. And a big reason why we started Worldcoin is AI is coming, it's accelerating, and how can we as a society adapt to this, and what will be needed for this. And a couple of things came to mind. One is proving humanness on the internet is going to be a central piece that will be required. It will be required globally. So this means that, let's say on Twitter, you can verify you're an actual human being, not a bot. And the other big piece that we think will be coming actually is some form of universal basic income. That means that you have AI systems that create a lot of wealth, a lot of influence in the world, and we have to make that available to as many people as possible. And then the last piece of that is democratic governance over AI systems. So that's on the AI side. Proof of personhood, universal basic income, and democratic governance over these systems. And then the other big piece that motivated us was crypto itself. So probably many of the listeners are also aware of Bitcoin and many of the other cryptocurrencies, but we really think that crypto can empower many, many people. It can make the global financial system much more effective, and it will be a very, very increasingly powerful technology in the coming years and decades. And we were really thinking, how can we accelerate this progress? What can we do to essentially drastically accelerate what Bitcoin has started, and how can we give billions of people access to this technology? And so we came up with the idea for Worldcoin, which essentially is we launch a new digital currency by giving ownership in it to every human being on this planet if they decide to claim it. And as a result, in that process, you receive ownership in the protocol through the Worldcoin token, but also you receive World ID, which is a digital identity primitive that you can then use to verify yourself online as a human, which we will think will become increasingly important. So that was like a long monologue, but that's some of the reasons why we started working on Worldcoin. And now you can decide to go deeper in each of them.
Yeah, and I think maybe you talked about Worldcoin, you talked about World ID and the way it gives you that identity within a digital space. But maybe you can talk a little bit about the orb, which seems to be somewhat at the center of some of the controversy in Kenya and the
Yeah,
issue of data minimization. Maybe we can just look at those two interchangeable issues there.
of course. So the orb is essentially what you need to well, so if you want to join Worldcoin and you want to receive a World ID, as you probably know, you have to verify at an orb once. So you physically have to go there, you download an app, you present a QR code to the orb, and then after that you're verified. And why does this device exist, and why did we need to develop this and spend a lot of time and effort into developing it, is that the technical problem that we're solving is called proof of personhood. And what proof of personhood means is that you as an individual, you can prove to the internet that you are a unique human being. And so there's two things in here. One is uniqueness, and the other thing is, well, you're alive, you're an actual human being. You're not trying to fraud the protocol or the system in some way. And that is really nothing we have on the internet right now. That's why Twitter, for example, like Elon is talking about the fact that now everyone will essentially have to pay, because payment is the only way to verify that you're an actual human being. And that's obviously not what is scalable or something that will go forward. And why is Elon saying that? Is because bots are becoming more and more powerful, because AI is getting more and more powerful, right? So we don't have proof of person on the internet. We think it will be required. And so we think it has to be built. And we think the orb is probably the only solution we have to this problem right now. And so what the orb does is it does two things. It first verifies that you're an actual human being, so it checks that you're alive. So there's a couple sensors in front that just essentially make sure that you are not showing it a display. You're not trying to fraud it in any other way, but you're actually just a person in front of this device trying to verify. So that's step number one, it's liveness. And then the second piece is uniqueness. So it takes a picture of your eye, calculates a unique code out of this picture, and converts that into what is called an iris code, signs that, and that by default is the only thing that is actually leaving the device. And then the protocol uses some clever cryptography to make sure that that iris code is fully separated from your later Worldcoin account. So in fact, you stay completely anonymous, effectively, meaning it really is the most privacy preserving way to solve this problem. And why do you need a hardware device for this? Why do not phones work, or why does nothing else work? It's essentially that all the things that we usually interact with, so for example, our iPhone, what the iPhone solves is, okay, I'm again Moses showing up. I'm the same person again showing up to my phone. So it's a one-to-one comparison. But to solve global uniqueness and well, I mean, most importantly, if many of us want to do that in many, many different countries, and it's eventually going to be billions of people, we need to compare uniqueness against billions of people. And the only thing that really works for that is the eye, the iris. It has a lot of structure in it. It's very unique. Face comparison or fingerprints, all of these things do not work on that scale. So that's essentially why the orb. The orb is a very sophisticated and privacy-preserving hardware device that solves the problem. And Worldcoin essentially is distributing these devices globally so people everywhere can verify.
So let's come back again to the orb and obviously the data that it captures and the unique biometric signature, I suppose, that you then use within digital interactions. There's a big concern, or I suppose a question around the privacy. I know you already mentioned that it's quite secure, but how do we ensure that these identities are private and secure within your, should I call it your ecosystem, perhaps?
Yeah. So I mean, the first, so the tricky part of this question is, of course, that it's a question of depth, like how far and how deep do we want to discuss this? But the first important note here is that everything is, there's a lot of material online on our website, for example, that really explains this in much more depth if you really want to understand technology in depth. But let me now try to give it a step on a much kind of higher level, simpler way that explains it. And then you can, Moses, you can let me know if you should go
Yeah,
deeper
just
anywhere.
keep it as light as you can.
Yeah. Okay. So so essentially, so I'm Alex. I want to verify the Worldcoin. What happens? I download an app, which is a non-custodial crypto app. Currently, the only app that works is World app. So I download this app. I say I want to verify now, and I go to an orb. If I go to an orb, the orb first does the liveness check. So there's sensors in front to make sure that I'm an actual person. Once that happens, a picture of the iris gets taken, iris code gets calculated, iris code leaves the orb. So that is what happens by default. By default, no data is stored other than that iris code that actually leaves the device. So there is no actual biometric data captured. Then, which is the most important piece of all of this, is that iris code is compared against all users globally. And if that uniqueness check is true, is successful, meaning you as a user, you have not verified before, and you're essentially not trying to fraud the system or attack the system in some way. If that is the case, then, well, you get your world ID, but the world ID gets issued with something that is called zero knowledge proofs. And what zero knowledge proofs allow you to do is essentially to fully separate this uniqueness check from your account later on. So what that means is that, so let's say you, Moses, you have verified for Worldcoin, you have now received your world ID. And then later, let's say you use that world ID to verify online all the different actions that you do. Again, it's just I use Twitter or X because I think everyone is aware of Twitter or X. So let's say you want to log in into Twitter or X with your world ID. After this verification, neither X nor Worldcoin will have any idea who you actually are. They just know that you're unique to that service, again, through zero knowledge proofs. So essentially at the core to the whole protocol, there's, and this is open source, there's the kind of open source implementation of this. There are zero knowledge proofs that verify that all of this is privacy preserving. And then, of course, there's a deeper debate about kind of all the technical implementation we could go in, but that's kind of on a high level how it works.
Well, thank you for sharing that detail. So I'm very curious because I think for me, as somebody who's worked in the, the technology space in East Africa and in Kenya, particularly for, I suppose, close to 30 years, I've been in this space a long time since, connecting people to the internet and all that. Kenya for me has always been a little bit unusual. In fact, we had a CEO of Safaricom, the biggest telecom, once say that, Kenyans are peculiar. But more importantly, I think I'd like to understand why Worldcoin sort of identified Kenya as one of the key markets. And then I think subsequent to that, we had over 350,000 Kenyans actually sign up with the orb and get themselves a wild ID and so forth. So I'm just wondering about what are the motivations and what are the criterias or the reasons why Kenya seemed to sort of be one of the, I suppose, the candidate countries at the very beginning, and then secondly, this adoption rate, which seems to be quite incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the short answer is I think Kenya is one of the most important markets in the world right now, for a lot of different reasons. I think you have for us specifically, or for Worldcoin specifically, there's a couple things coming together. I think you have a country that is the economy is quickly growing. There's a lot of innovation happening, much more. Well, it's very outstanding, I think, actually. And then also there has been a lot of previous progress that does not exist in many other places, like M-Pesa, right? Like Kenya actually is operating already on very digital payment rails for a large percentage of the population. That it's not something that happens in many places around the world. So this combination of you have a country that is progressing relatively quickly, a fastly growing economy. You already have digital payments, so you already have many people that understand the importance of this, and kind of why Worldcoin might be so powerful and kind of so innovative going forward. And then also you already have a large number of crypto users itself in Kenya. So I think in terms of,
Absolutely. I think
yeah,
it's
so it's like
4.5 to 5 million at this point, I believe.
yeah, it's one of the largest crypto markets in the world, just in terms of users. And the last time I traveled to Kenya, I was visiting many universities in Nairobi, and it was truly inspiring, to be honest, to talk to students and understand how in depth the understanding is for crypto and kind of for the whole industry. So yeah, I think for a lot of reasons we had kind of in the early days we had the resources and the energy for a couple focus markets, and this was Portugal was one of them, Kenya was one of them, Argentina was one of them. The first signups actually happened in Germany and Sweden, and so yeah, we really looked at Kenya as that's the innovative place we should look at for the whole continent, and really start from there. And I think other than the recent interaction with the government, that I think was a perfect decision, and I think it worked out really well.
So what we're saying is that we have this fantastic market, very tech forward in Africa and globally. Mobile money is really huge. We have got, almost 5 million, I think, cryptocurrency users in this country.
Yeah.
You launch Worldcoin, you get this massive uptake, the lines that were at various locations trying to sign up, a lot of excitement, a lot of interest. And then out of nowhere, the Kenyan government decides to suspend Worldcoin, and then even goes as far as, launching this ad hoc committee in parliament. So for me, I think the question is, obviously this was all very sudden and, a lot of, shall I call it, sensational reporting about, what's the agenda here and so forth. But I just would wonder, or rather would ask, were there any measures, preemptive measures perhaps, that you were taking as tools for humanity to try and sort of deal with some of these potential outcomes that have actually come to light in Kenya?
Yeah, so first, before before I go into more depth here, I think the first important comment is that I do think it is actually like we as Tools for Humanity, and I think me personally also, of course, I encourage regulators to be critical of everything, and try to understand things. I think that's important. That's exactly why they exist. And so we are very supportive of any of these efforts, and very transparent and happy to work with anyone. So that's the first important statement. And that's not Kenya specific. That's whoever approaches us, no matter which regulator or even which NGO, we're always incredibly transparent and try to explain everything, because we understand that this technology in particular is relatively complicated. With Kenya specifically, I mean, we have been in touch with a lot of regulators over the last few years, within Kenya specifically. That being said, I think both to us and to the government, it was very surprising how explosive the launch was, right? So I think probably what happened here is that while Worldcoin was around in Kenya and beta testing in Kenya for a long time, like I've not been in Kenya around launch, but it probably immediately became one of the major topics in public discourse. And so I assume many people just immediately were like, okay, what does that actually mean in detail? And I need to understand it. And so I think as a result, even though I think we worked very proactively before with regulators, understandably so, the launch created so much buzz and so much noise and so much attention that kind of everyone just wanted to take a step back and really understand what really does this mean and how does it work. So that's my answer, I think. What do you think?
Well, I imagine that you wouldn't have come to a market like this without, putting the guardrails in place, right? Doing things the right way. I've kind of been observing what's been happening, and I think, my personal view is that it's become very politicized. There's a sense that there's a hidden agenda of some sort. That's kind of the tone that I'm picking up on the ground. But I think ultimately, there's this confusion in terms of, was it approved? Was it working within, the legal framework? And these are sort of the questions I think that, are on everyone's mind right now. And, I do imagine that, as an organization, you followed all the right protocols, right?
Yeah, we did. I mean, we worked with many of the best, I think, lawyers probably in Kenya to make sure that
Yeah.
we have everything in place. We really tried hard to follow all protocols that there are, and I think did so. So yeah, of course, we tried to really proactively, in fact, do everything that we can. But I think, again, this major spike of interest probably just made it much more urgent and much more important. So many people that just, I don't know, so on a surface level have been aware of Volca suddenly really had to look much deeper into it. So I think that's essentially what happened.
Okay. Now, there's something else I wanted to ask, which is, there have been reports, again, with a lot of things happening in the media at the moment, that some Kenyans or many of them couldn't access their WorldCoin, after registration. Are there any responses you have to those concerns?
Well, I mean, so first of all, like there's many reasons why this could happen. And so it starts with this very simple fact that you can just lose your password. And given, so Moses, I think you understand this probably really well, is
Yeah.
in crypto, there is different ways to to build wallets and how to access crypto. And essentially you can have a centralized way. So essentially you're essentially like a bank, and that's a centralized exchange, and that exchange has all your assets. And if you want these assets, that exchange hands you out that assets. And then there is a self-custodial way, meaning you as a user, you own everything, you have all the keys, and you have all the access. However, if you lose this access, the access is lost, and no one can actually help you to regain that access, at least
Correct.
for the crypto tokens, for the cryptocurrency itself. And that's how Worldcoin is built, because it's built as a decentralized protocol. So that means that you get wallet keys when you sign up, and we have some recovery mechanisms built in that work with your G Drive account, where you actually can custody your keys. We will build more and more as we go, where you can essentially share your keys with your friends. So even if you lose your access, you can ask 3 or 4 of your trusted friends or family members, and you can regain access to your wallet. So these things we will build, but as you know, Moses, with many things in technology, if you lose the access to some things, your email account, you have lost access to your email account, and in some ways that's just how it is, and I think that's a large part of it. The important piece, however, is around World ID. So World ID will be recoverable with an orb. So I think that's the first confusing part, that those two things are separate. So as you know, when you sign up, you receive your World ID and you receive your Worldcoin tokens. And the Worldcoin tokens you receive every 2 weeks, you receive some amount of them. And if you lose access to your wallet, your Worldcoin tokens are lost. That's just how the system is built. But your World ID you will be able to recover with an orb, and that feature is shipping, I think, in the next two months. So there's nothing to worry about that on that end. And then if you re-verify with an orb, you actually then you do not get your historical Worldcoin tokens, but at least you get going forward the kind of the bi-weekly grant you get going forward again. So even if you have lost access, which I know is annoying, and I'm sorry that happened to you, you will be able to regain the most important piece of it relatively soon.
So, well, thanks for sharing that. So it seems to me like, I think this is in Kenya and possibly in other markets, we have this situation where, we see all these government agencies and institutions almost at loggerheads, as to whether WorldCoin was legal or not legal in the country. And then you have these issues of regulation and monitoring, companies like yours that really don't fall, and offerings like yours, which don't really fall into the same sort of frameworks or contexts that maybe have been in the market, traditionally. And I'm just curious to see, or rather to hear from you, how are you dealing with that level of complexity that even the stakeholders or the regulators and so forth don't understand enough about what it is that you're actually doing?
Well, I think there's only so much we can do right now, and another big piece I think will just take time, because as you know, Moses, we now went through a lot of major technology shifts over the last decades, right? Like as the internet initially started, and all the new things that came out of this. I remember one of my more recent memories was when Airbnb first became a major technology.
Yeah.
And no, everyone was confused. Like, okay, like random people are sleeping in my house. This is like, how can this be? How
Yeah.
can this be legal? And like, how can this be real, right? And so, I think we as Tools for Humanity, we have, I think, a very competent team. We are very transparent, and as you see, I'm personally even willing to talk to pretty much everyone, if my calendar allows, and explain everything in detail, and we will continue to do that. But then I think another big piece of it is just, it's a new technology. It's a very influential technology. It comes together with a lot of other new things like AI. And so I think a part of it is just we, which means like both we as Tools for Humanity, but then also users in a certain country or market. We just need to give regulators time to actually understand what is happening, and I think that's just the nature of this, of any new technology that comes around. So that would be my other statement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as they call it, the new thing, it's as confusing as it is, for people at the very
Yes,
beginning. And, somebody who's been a practitioner in the internet space in Kenya since the very beginning, I can tell you, we've come a long way. I remember fighting with CEOs that the fax machine is dead and that email is going to replace it. And,
yes,
and they used to tell me like, no, 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 my fax machine is going to be here in 20 years time. And we know how that went, right?
yes,
So,
yes.
the other question I wanted to ask you is really just maybe, what do you feel that, your organization has learned about the Kenya experience, and maybe how might that shape WorldCoin's, growth and approach going forward in other countries?
Well, I mean, I'm personally super excited about Kenya. Like everything about it. The last time I traveled there, it's very energizing. It's very young. It's very technology forward. So, I think, I'm just honestly, I'm just thankful that so many Kenyans are so excited about Worldcoin, and many reached out to me personally. I think my social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook, like it's full of Kenyans saying thank you, or like sorry for the whatever, essentially being angry that we cannot operate now in Kenya. So I get a lot of support from Kenyans, which I'm very thankful for personally. And what we have learned, I think, about the global or more global operation is I think nothing new. Is that I think we have to start in places where new technology gets embraced, and where there's a lot of young technology forward people that can understand these things maybe before the rest of everyone else, or kind of the larger amount of the population actually understands it. And I think that's very much true in Kenya.
I think that's fantastic. The thing you've just said, that there are people who've reached out to you directly, the stakeholders, those who've actually, managed to get their own world IDs and coins, and actually appreciating and saying that this is a good thing, that they are unhappy that it cannot move forward at the moment. I mean, that's fantastic. I don't think we've heard this publicly stated before, to be honest.
That is true. Probably I did not, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
I've not
I'm
heard this
thankful
before.
that happens. Yeah,
No, but it's good to hear that. I think the voice on the ground is saying that we are happy with this, that we're using it. So that's I think a counter narrative that we need to hear. And thank you for sharing that.
of course.
So yeah. So going forward, I mean, what do you see as the future steps, in terms of WorldCoin? Of course, we have this ad hoc committee that's doing some sort of, they're having sessions to understand this whole situation. But what do you see the future? What do you see in terms of the way forward from this perspective?
Um, so Kenya specifically, I think it's very clear. It is that we internally in TVH, we have a high priority behind responding to all questions we get from Kenyan regulators, and responding to everything as quick as we can. So that is the highest priority, because I mean, obviously what we want, and I think what many Kenyans want, is we just want to be back live in Kenya. And it can be at a smaller scale. It can be like there's many ways how this can play out, but I think at least it is important that Kenyans have the possibility to verify for Worldcoin if they want to. And so we will just work with the government as proactively as we can to resolve all the potential questions that there might be, or precautions that they want us to take. So that is for Kenya specifically, but then more broadly speaking, the next year is going to be pretty big for Worldcoin. There's going to be a lot of new products that I think will get a lot of users excited. There's a lot of major integrations we will work on. We will expand into many more markets, many more countries. So it's just going to grow very quickly, and it's going to get a lot of new applications very quickly. So it's certainly an exciting year ahead.
Are you in a position to share some of what that might look like, or is that still very much in sort of the early stages?
Not yet, but
Okay.
Moses, I will love to talk much more in detail about that in the coming months, and maybe get
Okay.
onto this podcast again once we
Okay.
actually get there.
Okay. Just a few more questions. I think the question I'd love to ask is, I'm a big fan of, crypto and blockchain, and just the idea and the underpinning philosophies behind these technologies. I think, many people have sort of wondered whether, Web3 and, the last couple of years, all these things that have happened with NFTs and the likes. And I see really, the digital ledgers and so forth being kind of the value propositions here and the possibilities going forward, almost like the early days of the internet. Nobody
Yep.
expected e-commerce to work. People said, I'll never put my credit card online. And
Yes.
now this is so common, we don't even think twice about it.
Yes.
The same way that in an Uber, we happily put our 10-year-old children in a car with a complete stranger and expect them to get to the other side safely. And technology is
Yes.
what makes this possible. So when I look at this in the context of obviously crypto, and yourselves, and the future of blockchain and digital identities, how do you see WorldCoin fitting into that broader vision and range of possibilities when it comes to this new world that we're getting into?
Yeah. So I think first of all, you said many I think you said many important things. I think that um, crypto as a technology had its ups and downs, as we all know, the last couple of years. Like it always came in cycles. So I've worked now on Worldcoin since 3.5 years essentially. And even within that 3.5 years, I think twice we went through the whole world being super excited about crypto and it's going to save every problem that we have on the internet, and then to no one caring about crypto anymore, and then that's swinging up again. And I think right now we're somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
So but I do agree with your assessment that I think crypto is there to stay, and I think it's going to be extremely transformative to the internet as a whole. And it will enter our daily lives more and more over the coming years. And in a couple of years, if we talk again, it's probably going to be a very normal thing to have a crypto wallet and to use it to transact online, because it just will make things so much easier and so much faster. And how Worldcoin fits into that is, well, I think there's a couple things coming together here. I think your World ID will become a very normal and critical part of your online experience. Probably many services that you use today will require your World ID at some point, because I think AI is going to progress more and more, and essentially we will all just verify at some point. And Worldcoin is the privacy preserving solution for that, and it is open source, so I think it's the best path we have. I do think that Worldcoin, the token itself, will end up being the widest distributed digital token, probably, meaning a lot of users will have it, a lot of people will have ownership in it, which will itself then lead to many new things being built on top of that. So I think you will see a lot of products just being built on top of Worldcoin and World app, just given the density of users. Like probably Moses, you can tell me otherwise, but I think probably within Kenya, World app is already one of the largest crypto wallets, if that's not correct. So
Would be. I
that,
imagine, got 4 or 5 million crypto people already, and within a couple of weeks you got to almost 500,000. So absolutely.
yes. So yeah, I do think like within Kenya specifically, once we resolve this this local or this period of time, and kind of continue to work with the government, and we actually get back live again, I think we will have a lot of Kenyans and a lot of people internationally with access to this technology, and a lot of companies and innovation being built on top of that will enter more and more our daily lives.
Great. I'm loving your perspective. I'm feeling a lot of optimism. I'm feeling a lot of you're looking forward to the future with a lot of sort of the positive possibilities going ahead. And I think the bigger picture of the fact that, WorldCoin and also the World ID become sort of integral aspects of many other things that we start to do. And that kind of
Yes.
brings me to my last question, I think, because I think when all parties are at the table and they kind of can see everything in the way that it's supposed to work and not lose the forest for the trees, how can the general public and authorities in Kenya and outside Kenya work hand in hand with organizations like yourselves to make WorldCoin really a fundamental part of a harmonious digital financial ecosystem in Kenya and beyond?
Well, I honestly think we already almost did all of that. So I think we like I personally met many Kenyan entrepreneurs before, many founders, which there's many of. And so just continuing to do that, I think just building a community of people that understand the technology and start integrating it into their companies, into their products, maybe build companies on top of that. Then as a result of that, I think we'll get more funding into the ecosystem, meaning more investors will invest into these companies, maybe also international investors. And then just a kind of a cycle will start of new companies enter the market, new innovation enters the market, new capital enters the market, new products get built. So I think we've already been there. We just need to get back at it. Meaning just keep get back the operations and get a lot of users in the country. Once there's a lot of users, it's going to be very tractable for entrepreneurs to build on top of that. and we're going to kickstart all of this. So I honestly think if you're a founder, if you're an entrepreneur, and you want to meet, just reach out to me. I'm fairly available online. You can text me on Twitter. Actually, I think Moses can share my email. And I'm happy to meet you once I'm in Nairobi. Let's just work together and let's make this happen. I think that's my answer.
Fantastic. I don't know whether, Alex, you'd like to share any last comments or thoughts before we bring this to an end?
Well, I think this was a fun interview. Thanks for taking the time, Moses. I think Kenya is an incredible market. I think Worldcoin will be an important part of the future of crypto, but also technology itself. And I hope we will be back in Kenya sometime soon. That's really all top of mind for me right now.
Well, thank you so much, Alex. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being on our podcast today. I think you've really sort of tried to share with us a very honest and candid view of what WorldCoin and Tools for Humanity is trying to do on the ground. I think from what I'm hearing, there's a bigger picture here that we need to kind of pay attention to. There's a broader ecosystem that is going to create layers of possibilities, I think, for entrepreneurs, for individuals, for people to have a better quality of life through this ecosystem. I think there are queries, of course, around some of the initial concerns. I think what I'm picking up is that many of these are really from possibly a lack of understanding or fully appreciating what WorldCoin is trying to do and what the organization itself is trying to accomplish. But I think ultimately these are the things that happen when something is really new in the market. And I think we're looking forward to seeing how WorldCoin navigates this journey in Kenya and beyond. And more importantly, let's remember that I think this conversation for our audience isn't ending today. We know there's still other things happening in Kenya and globally around WorldCoin and other similar offerings. And I think we'd love to hear your thoughts. So do share them with us and let's keep this dialogue going. Once again, from the Pure Digital Passion podcast with Moses Kemibaro, it's been a pleasure and we'll catch you in the next one.